truly an honor to have a chance to speak with someone such as yourself. And so I know that I've been corresponding with you a little bit with email, but where these students are, these are sixth grade students. And
So
we
what age is that? What age are you guys? Sixth grade? I'm not sure. It's different over here in France. I don't know.
11 and 12 years old.
Okay.
Yep. And so,
Preteen.
yes, that's right. The glory days, something like that. And so we are right in the thick of taking the information that we've learned about this World War II French resistance fighter. And our task is to create a story, and we've decided to put it in a comic book / graphic novel format.
Okay.
So we are right in the process of making sure our words are accurate, and then trying to figure out, descriptions that are words, and then other descriptors that could be better told visually. So we're kind of in the throes, as you saw some of our rough sketches.
Yeah, I saw.
And so, yeah, go ahead.
Before we dive into it, I didn't explain. I'm sorry if you're hearing some noises, but I have a puppy with me, and he's very being his puppy self. I agreed to do this little event, first of all, because I think it's great to have kids interested in comics. And when I was about their age, you guys' age, I think I was more 13, I was in a class, like a special class, that the theme of our year was World War II and deportation and all of that. And I actually visited myself a concentration camp when I was about 13. So it's a subject. I have interviewed people who were resistant. I've interviewed people who were in Auschwitz and all that. So it's a subject that's close to my heart.
That's wonderful. That's perfect alignment with the work that we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. I can see myself doing the exact same thing that you guys are doing, not in a comics form, but when I was about 20 years ago.
Seems just like yesterday, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe we get into some of the details of the comics, and the kids have some questions and things for you. Could we start off, as you already shared a little bit about a connection here with the work we're doing, and yourself there when you were 13. Could you just give us a kind of brief recap, who you are, what you do, just some of that stuff? We've prompted them on some of your work and things of that nature, but it's always better to hear it from the incredible person themselves. So if we can start off with the introduction, maybe that's where I should have started, but I just got a little.
No, that's okay. It's not fascinating. I'm just. My name is Elsa Charretier. I'm French, but I work in comics, U.S. comics, the type of comics that you guys will find in any comic book store that you have in your hometown. That's what I do. I've worked with Marvel and DC a lot. I've worked on the Harley Quinn, on Batman a little bit, Star Wars too as well. I did a bunch of Star Wars, the Star Wars Adventures. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the series, but I worked on that with my partner for a while. And right now I'm doing more adult drama noir kind of graphic novels these days. So definitely not something that you would have read, hopefully. And I used to work in movies. I was an actress for a while when I was younger, and I switched to comics when I was about 25, and I taught myself how to draw in about 2-3 years, and then I became a professional comic book artist almost straight away. And in terms of my education, I have none, which is it's always an interesting response when I talk to classrooms full of kids who are just still in the beginning of their pupils' careers, that I went to school up until 17, 16, and that's about it. So I don't recommend for anyone, but it's what worked for me. I didn't like, I liked learning a lot, but I had trouble with staying still in a classroom. I don't know if you have one of those in your class today. But yeah, school is good, but sometimes if school doesn't work out for you, it's not the end of the world either. I'm very happy with where I am right now, and it's a different path.
Oh,
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that. So, out of curiosity too, what prompted you to make that shift to think about teaching yourself how to draw and get into the comic industry? Because I think probably for a lot of us, we assume that this is what you've always been doing, and you just shared with us. No one's path is linear, but
Oh yeah.
how did you shift to go? I'm going to be a comic artist.
So I loved movies, and when I finished high school, which I finished early, oddly enough, I had almost 2 years advance in high school. I didn't like school, but I did well in school. And I liked movies, and I decided that I wanted to become an actress. So I moved to Paris with my partner. I was still a minor. And we stayed there for a long time. I went to auditions, I did all the things that you're supposed to do to become a young actor. And I realized after a while that I liked movies, but I just didn't like acting in them. It wasn't for me. And it took me, because you're taught perseverance, that if you have a dream, you have to work for it. It's going to be hard, and you have to hang tight, and eventually you're going to achieve what you want. So I persevered for 7 years until someday I just realized I'd rather be doing nothing than doing this. It's not working out for me. But it was scary because I was 25 years old and I had, like I said, no education. And up until now, the only thing that I thought I would be doing with my life would be to act in movies. So it was a very scary time. I'm only 25 and I don't know what I'm going to do. I live on my own, so I have to find a job quick. So it was a really stressful time. But I allowed myself a few months to figure things out and try not to panic. And I broadened my mind. I knew I wanted to be an artist. I just didn't know exactly what kind of art I would be doing. I thought it would be acting. It was not acting. I thought it would be cooking. I tried that. It didn't work out. So my path is really not linear at all. And then, as it's often the case with life, and you'll have this experience as you grow up, life presents you with the opportunity, and sometimes you just let them go by, and sometimes you think, oh, this could be my chance. And my chance was that my partner discovered comics. He decided that he wanted to write comics, and he needed an artist real bad. And I thought, heck, I could draw. And I tried a few pages for submission for a publisher. The pages were really bad, but I discovered drawing, and I realized, oh, well, this is my art. I had no idea that drawing would be it for me until I just tried, and I fell in love with it instantly. Which was a huge surprise. And from that moment on, it's been 10 years. I've drawn hundreds and hundreds of pages, thousands at that point. And I'm still deeply in love with comics and drawings, but it was not the plan at all. This is not how I started out, but I'm glad I stumbled upon it.
Yeah. So maybe to build off that and segue too, as you were talking and you were teaching yourself how to draw, some of the comments that I've heard here and there while we're all being vulnerable in our space and trying to figure out how to be artists, and not all of us consider ourselves artists. And we've heard lots of comments here and there of, I can't draw, I'm not good at art, some of that kind of negative self-talk. So maybe before we get into some of the details of what we've been working on, how did you overcome that? Because that's something that we are working on, and obviously we want to have a good product, but we're also working on, self-confidence, the way we see ourselves, important things. So any advice from you as you you kind of pioneered through probably a lot of that creative, sometimes negative self-talk.
I might not be the right person to give advice on that because I'm very tough on myself. I'm always disappointed with what I do, but I love the process, the act of drawing, and I try to find fulfillment in finding ideas, in trying to translate those ideas onto storytelling, something that is seen. The quality of the drawing in comics especially, it's true for art and modern art too, does not matter. I say that from the bottom of my heart. It does not matter. One of my favorite artists is Chris Ware, and he's one of the most acclaimed comic book creator of our time, and I would not consider him like an incredible craftsman. It's not what he does. He tells incredible stories. He knows how to put emotions in his stories. The drawing itself, it's okay, but it's really not his forte. And I know a lot of people like that. And so to go back on what I was saying earlier, if you like drawing, if you like thinking of stories and putting them into picture and trying to break your idea down into panels, that's all that should really matter. The quality of the drawing is not important. It's really not. And if you think it is, because I'm not gonna try to convince you that it's not, if you really think that it is, just it's a process. It'll take time. Drawing is really, really, really hard. Drawing comics is even harder because you have to tell a story with so it's many different skills, not just drawing. You'll get there. You'll get there if, sorry. You'll get there eventually if you like it enough. And if you don't like it enough to persevere, then it's not your art, and it's okay. You'll find something else.
Oh, I love that. And so as you think through that, I think that's really powerful stuff for all of us to think about the process, why we're kind of in the thick of the development here. And so what is kind of your process as you talked about the story, and we talked about a little bit about art, and we're trying to figure this out. None of us are experts in how to go about crafting this. Can you, I mean, I know there's a lot to it and those types of things, but in general, could you share a little bit about how you take a concept or a story and kind of bring that to life as we're trying to work through and learn some of these processes as well?
That is really, it's a tough thing to put into words. Obviously, it is possible. So before that, one thing that I could advise you, if you have the possibility to have that in your classroom, or if you have possibility to buy it at some point, it's Scott McCloud's book on graphic novel. I can't remember
Yes.
Making comics. Scott McCloud's Making Comics. He's the best in the world to explain really how to do what you asked me to do, to explain. So when you have an idea, when you have a script, and the paragraphs that you sent me are a script, first of all, you break them down into individual actions, individual things that you can put in different individual pictures. For example, for each paragraph that you have, and you've done that for the first page already, try to break it into 4 or 5 main events, which are going to be your panels. Because if you try to put into a single page an entire paragraph, it's not going to be possible. You have to break that down. So for example, I jotted down for page 1, you have Michel and his family. That could be one panel. Then you have the Nazi soldiers. Then you could have like a map of France showing the line of demarcation. And then you have Michel and Christian at Peter's Inn. So all of that, it's breaking down a series of events into individual actions. And that's what I do with every script that I get. And from that, what I do, I don't know if you do it that way or not, I close my eyes and I try to imagine that event if it were in a movie, for example. How would it look like? And then from that moment on, I try to put that on paper. I try to sketch that on paper. The visualization of the panels is the toughest. It's really, really hard. It's not a given to picture something in your mind's eye. It's tough. You might not be able to do it straight away, especially since you're all very young. But that's the process. And then moving on to sketch and trying to refine the art. But it all comes down to taking a series of events, breaking them down into individual actions, and those are your panels.
No, that makes a lot of sense. If you're talking about that, my brain, I'm going, yeah, duh. I don't know why we haven't thought through that. We've been working, trying to get the paragraphs put together, but I think we're trying to.
No, but it's great. It's great that you have the paragraphs because that's your script. Without that, you can't really. It's like no structure, free flowing. It's too tough. Some people do work that way, but they are generally more experienced. Yeah, you've done your script. You have it. Now you break it down into panels. I would suggest. I know you only have 10 pages, and you want to put in as much story as you can. I would advise not to go above 4 or 5 panels a page. As a professional comic book artist, you can do a lot more. I do pages with 8 or 9, but my art is more refined now, and so I can put in a lot of details in small panels. When you're starting out and you're not sure how to draw something, it's better to leave some room to breathe for the art to be legible.
Well, that's good because yesterday we put a shot in the dark with a number and told them to think about no more than 5. So I'm glad that our Wild West guest aligned with professional expertise.
Good instincts. Here's the puppy. He's being naughty. You're being naughty. Yes. So 5 panel stops is what I would do. And also, since it is comics, okay, you can play with pictures to tell things, and you can play with captions or dialogue. Meaning that if you have 2 pieces of information, or let's say you have 10 pieces of information that you want to convey in a single page, and you only have 5 panels. This means that you could, in theory, have 2 pieces of information per panel. One piece of information that you convey through drawing, and another one that you just say in the caption. So that means doubles the amount of story, because when I say information, it's really story, plot points or story. So do use that. It's a good way to pack a lot of story into very few panels.
Oh, I love that. That's, I think, really helpful for us. We've been trying to figure out what to keep and not keep, and I think that's just another technique that we can utilize.
It's really the toughest part of the job is figuring out what you can leave out and still have a legible story that reads well. It's really, really the toughest part.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're not only. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
You're all not just drawing. You're writing that story. And so it's tough. A lot of skills go into that.
So students, we've already gained a ton of information, and I know a lot of you have some questions, wonderings, an opportunity here to engage. So I don't want to hog all the air here, just because I'm kind of fanboying here a little bit. But so who wants to go up? I know we've got questions. I know this group is not shy.
Yeah.
Well, our computer is over here in the corner, so I'd ask you to go up so she can see who's talking.
Mhm.
Yeah, so let's maybe start with page number 1. Let's just keep it organized so we don't stare at each other in weird ways. So page number 1, if any of you guys got questions or things you would like to ask her, why don't you make your way up? All right, so make sure you guys duck down. I think see your belly button.
So we were wondering, so since we're group 1, we were wondering how to, like, what color palette to use for, like, the end scene, because the end scene is kind of like almost like a hard moment to portray, kind of.
Whew. Okay, that's tough. Colors. I hadn't even thought of that. I didn't know that you would be coloring it. Okay, I'm trying to. Okay. Huh. Wow. That's a very tough question. Let me think about that. It depends. Does Michelle and Christian feel comfortable in the inn, or are they scared? How are they feeling?
They feel comfortable.
Okay, so colors are a way to enhance mood or emotion or atmosphere. Typically, when you have colder colors, I don't know if you're familiar with the terms of cooler tones or warmer tones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, or I can see your face.
Yes.
Okay, so cooler tones are gonna be your blues, your bluish grays, all of that, and it's not very warm. it usually translates someone that's uncomfortable, that's not feeling too good, that's maybe sick or something like that. Whereas if you go towards yellows, orange, it's a fire. You're comfortable by a fire, right? So I would suggest that you go towards those warmer tones to show that after their travels, they're now in a place where they feel safe and it's a good place for them to be. So you could use a palette that is warmer with oranges, maybe not red, because reds can sometimes indicate danger, warning. Maybe not red, but yellows and oranges would be nice, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
What do you think?
What do you guys think?
I think that's a good point.
Write that down, right?
So I have a question for the split scene for the line of demarcation.
Okay.
So the first point of view would be Michelle and his brother hiding, looking from a building from the Nazis on a bridge. The point of view would probably be like they need a new plan, and the other would be them wading through the water. And I was wondering what colors and shading would help show these two scenes more.
So let me see if I got it straight, because the sound is not great. So I caught a word out of two. Can you go over again, please, the scene that you're working on and exactly what? So please repeat your question. I'm sorry, it's not you. It's just the sound is not good on my end.
So we have a split scene where because we need separate points of view. The first one would be Michelle and his brother hiding, looking behind a building at the Nazis on the bridge, since they needed to cross that bridge to get past the line of demarcation.
Okay.
And they'd be discussing they needed a new plan.
Mm-hmm.
The second point of view would be them wading through the river near the bridge, but not on it, since the Nazis were on it.
Mm-hmm.
And how would colors and shading help show these two scenes differently?
Do these action happen like right after the other?
Yes.
Okay. Well, basically it's gonna be the same. Why do you want them to be different? Those two color palettes? Because if the actions happen one then the next, why your choice of differentiating the two color palettes?
So I would have, since the first color palette would be more of fear, or I'm not exactly sure how to explain it, but the color palettes for them to represent emotion.
Yes.
So I don't know if they should be more muted or popping out. So that's,
Huh.
I was just wondering what shades, what would I use?
So on the first scene, they are scared, and on the second, they are relieved, or are they still scared?
Probably still scared since they're next to the Germans, but under the.
Okay, so there is a form of gradation, right? It's going from bad to worse, right? Is that it? So you could keep the same palette, but only make it a bit more intense in the second one.
Okay.
Because, and I'm not sure how you would do that, to be completely honest. I'm not sure how I would do it myself. But since you have a continuity of action, a continuity of time, I wouldn't do them completely differently because it might be a bit jarring. We might get the feeling that maybe we're somewhere else suddenly, whereas we're still basically in the same area. So you want slight evolution in the colors, but I think you want to stay basically in the same range of colors.
Okay.
Because that's one thing. If you do one palette for one panel, and then you move to a different location, you can do an entirely different color palette. People will understand, oh, okay, we've changed. We're somewhere else. But if you change the colors entirely, but we're still in the same place, it's a bit confusing. It could be confusing to the reader. So I would advise you don't have to change your palette with every panel.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. It was a great question. Much more like technical than I thought you would ask.
I know they're coming in hot and heavy here right away.
Oh yeah. I'm like, okay, I have to like pull up the big guns.
All right, so I think we've got a question here for page number 2.
Okay.
So,
You're gonna have to make sure you speak
Hello.
up.
yeah. So my group was trying to portray a serious but somber tone in our images. So can you tell us how we can emphasize that feeling so the message is clear to the reader?
Okay. Oh my god, good question. Okay, so there is a rule, a general rule. It doesn't apply all the time, but basically a wide framing is comedy, a close-up is drama.
Okay.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah.
So basically when you have, if you look at comedies, movies, all of that, often when there is a joke, like a physical bit of comedy, you'll have you'll see wide, because that's funnier. If you go in closer, that's a bit more dramatic. So one way to convey the dramatic weight of what is happening would be to sometimes get a bit closer. So as you can see on the pictures that you've already drawn, and it's something that beginner drawing will do, beginner artist or drawer will do, is to be very wide, because it's how we are able to draw when we're not sure how. if you focus on zooming in on your characters a little bit, that would in itself add a lot of drama. One thing that I liked on that page is the fact that they flip a coin. That's a very good storytelling bit, if you want. And instead, as you have them now, you're very wide. So they could be like playing a joke or having fun next to their house. If you take the characters out entirely almost and you just focus on the coin, then it's like the dramatic weight of the coin becomes huge because that's the only thing that you see, and you're almost like suspended to see how on what side it's gonna end. And that's because one, it's a close-up, and one, because you're focusing on that coin. And that's also, that adds a bit of variety visually. It's always better to alternate wide shot and close-ups. That's a bit more technical. Yeah, that could be, for that specific scene, zooming in on the coin could be one way to do it.
Okay,
and even if you think that you're not sure how to draw faces, don't hesitate to zoom in on the faces too.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Mec, mets-les dans son parc, je pense qu'il peut dormir là.
Can I go?
Oh, just a second. Oh, just a second. Sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We are trying to set a scene or setting focused around the environment of the village his grandmother's house is in. If you're trying to show a place of serenity before a tragic event, what could we add?
A place of serenity. So it all happens in the countryside, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
To you, when you think of serenity and countryside, what comes to mind?
Like calm and peace.
How would that visually translate? Calm and peace is a concept. How would you, in terms of elements, or what are you thinking?
Like kind of like a still picture, like there's not much action in the picture.
Yeah. Let me suggest something. How about a bird? That it is usually significant, bird chirping. It's spring, it's very peaceful, nothing happens, the bird is chirping. That could be something that everyone understands as peaceful. That could be something that you could do. And generally speaking, not that you were gonna go all crazy anyway with the angles and everything, but when you want something to be still and to be calm, you draw it that way. That means your horizon line is, flat. The house is seen from afar. Nothing. It basically goes back to what I was saying earlier about the different kind of framing that you do. If you go wide, there's no real drama. So that means it could be peaceful. If you add a bird chirping or two, maybe a river flowing, that's no drama for you.
Okay, and then I have one more. Connecting back to our last question, how could we bring that calm, peaceful feeling through color? Kind of like what colors show that bright color palette?
It depends. Do you know what time of year it was?
1940, I believe.
No, season.
Oh,
season. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, I do not
It's
know.
pretty much suspending throughout, almost kind of like a June kind of type day throughout the process.
Okay, so for that, since it's not necessarily winter, or in that case you would go with colder colors, You could go with warmer tones or just with the tones that you imagine to be the countryside. So a lot of green, a lot of nature, as long as you don't have the colors too saturated, too intense, because the saturated colors tend to yell, scream a little bit at the reader. And if you want peace, you want slightly muted colors, not too desaturated, because if you go too desaturated, that's dead. You know, there's no life anymore. It's something somewhere in between. But you can use like greens or blues for the sky. Don't feel like you can use realistic colors that you find in nature, just not too saturated.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
So right now we have a picture of a car, and it's important because it helps them be incognito or undercover. So we're wondering, how do we show that this car is significant in their survival?
How do we show it's... So, I don't know if that's gonna apply here specifically, but on the comic book page, and if you read superhero comics, you'll know what I mean. You'll often have like a star panel, the biggest panel on the page. It's gonna be the panel where you see Supergirl taking off, or you see Batman jumping off a building. Obviously, with something like that, it's not gonna be the smallest panel on the page. No, it's gonna be the bigger panel on the page. So if in that page, the most important element is the car, then I say your biggest panel is the car. You draw it big. That's how basically the more real estate it takes up on the page, the more important it is to the story. As simple as that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we had a panel about Suzanne getting like
Yes.
she got found out that she was a spy. So we need advice on how do we create an intense environment from like only Michelle's point of view, but at the same time including Suzanne's hopefulness of her success on her mission, not making it too blocky.
Okay. I'm looking at the script again. That's page 5. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that it was a lot of information to put into a single page. So good luck with that. So what are your panel ideas for the moment? Like in terms of story beats, panel beats, do you know how many that you have? And do you know what you're gonna put in them or not at all?
So currently we have 4 panels. Well, 4 R3. So we kind of connected the plane as the British mission. And like the cargo shipment is like why Suzanne is here. And then we put that to the side to connect those 2 things to not make it separate. So, and then our Suzanne thing is like, we try to project a intense environment. That worked out, but a hopeful side from Suzanne didn't, so.
So your challenge is to show Suzanne's hopefulness?
Yeah.
From Michelle's point of view?
From Michelle's point of view, like trying to like he's worried and it's like intense from his side. But Suzanne from her side is like hopeful that this will work out.
Oh. Let me think. I think that you could have, and that's something that I say again and again. you could have a close-up on Suzanne and have a caption explaining her thoughts, like how she is hopeful, and zooming on her face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as if the caption was her internal monologue. So by showing her a face, usually you're showing the humanity of someone. And if you want people to see her as a person, that's what you could do. And and tie that with a, I don't know if it will work in your like entire page, but a suggestion would be to have a caption of her, what's going through her mind.
Okay. Yeah. I think
I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Hi.
So our group is like Suzanne, whenever she's being like interrogated by Michelle and other resistance fighters. And so we were wondering like how are we gonna like show like the seriousness of the scene, and like whenever like so they interrogate her in her own house. So like we're wondering like how we're gonna show like in that house like the feelings that like their nervousness and like that.
Show her nervousness. That's where, let me think. Here's something that you could do is alternate, and that's gonna contradict what I said earlier about maybe not go over 5 panels. For this page specifically, are the characters arguing like we should be doing this, we should be doing that to her? Is there a discussion among themselves?
Well, a little bit. There's a quote from Suzanne that we put in a speech bubble, but like in our paragraph we put more of like what they're like saying to each other, not really like in the images, but
okay, so that's good. When you have like a large panel that's long, in terms of timing, you know, comics is a lot about timing. The size of the panels, you don't think they matter, but they do in terms of what they translate in terms of emotions. If you have one long panel, like entire width of the page, and you have 5 balloons on there, 5 characters on the same panel and 5 balloons, that's going to give you a sense that time is a bit longer. If you take that panel and you cut it into 5 individual panels, and in each of those panels you have one character saying one thing, the size of the panels is going to give you a feeling a bit of time being shorter and of panic a little bit, because it's staccato. So one thing that you could show, like their confusion or maybe they're disagreeing, is take whatever dialogue you wanted to do in a panel and cut that up into more panels. It'll show some urgency. It'll be very different from what you have before in terms of panel size and what you have after. So it'll make that moment pop really in the story. When you want excitement, go for a vertical panel rather than horizontal, which is more calmer. And actually, I'd like to add that to the question, your friend's question earlier. How do I translate calm by longer panel? Excitement, shorter and more vertical. So that's something that you could do. Do more panels for that page and alternate the characters, each saying something. Maybe someone saying, we should do this. And on the next panel, the other one's like, no, we should do this. And then a third one, no, we should do that. You know, that gives a bit more a feeling of panic.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So,
Hi.
hi, so, our page is page 7, and, we have 2 questions. One of our first questions is, how do we show an environment of suspense on the barn?
Mm-hmm.
And like, should we consider different sizes of the barn or like a different background? How should we like show suspense with like the barn?
Huh. Okay. Let me just skim through the paragraph again, so that I remember. They're hiding. So is someone their journey? So they are hiding in the barn.
Yes.
Okay. Is there someone around that cars, trucks? What exactly? Why do you want suspense in the barn?
We want it to be suspenseful because like that is where Michelle finds the airman, and so we would like to show. We first
Okay.
started to like show suspense with like the door, but
That's a good idea. I'm thinking. Does he know that there are people inside, or does he think it's empty?
he knows that there are people inside.
Mm-hmm.
Is
So,
the-
okay. One thing that you can do to create suspense is to show something but not make it clear what it is. For example, you're saying like entirely different thing, or you could apply here too. There are people in this house. So you picture the house and you picture shadows, like silhouettes. There are people. Who are these people? You don't know if it's a man or a woman, you don't know. So you have just enough information to know that there are people inside, but you don't know exactly who these people are. And that's suspense, because your suspense is you're wondering, is this going to turn out like something good or something bad? Is this person this or this person that? So what you could show is in the barn or in the farm, you could show silhouettes, for example. But Michelle is not sure who these people are, and the reader is not sure who these people are until you tell them who they are, and it's okay, and they're fine. What do you think?
And in the cafe, we were thinking like in this picture we want the readers to feel nervous behind like a sense of normal.
Mm-hmm.
And like what would be your advice to like be able to do that?
I think that you can just show basically what the scene is in terms of I'm sorry about the dog. So what is scary for us and for Michelle is to be in a room full of German soldiers. So you could just have like a white. Just give me a second. Pierrick is to show them in the middle of the cafe with the Germans. Like they could be in the cafe, sitting in the cafe, in the middle of your scene, and all around them we see German soldiers. So they're visually, literally surrounded. And you don't need much more than that, because we understand the danger that they're in. You don't need fancy angles, you don't need you just need to show them in the middle of a cafe full of Germans. That's all you really need. And then you'll have your suspense. Suspense here being, are they gonna be discovered?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So our question was, so for one of our scenes, the grenade scene where the grenades are in the suitcase and they fall out but they don't explode. We were wondering if there's like how we can like express like the shock and like the surprise, like with color and like in the scene.
Okay, so that's page
8.
8. Obviously, like I said, if you want to show danger or potential danger, you go with red. That's the easiest way to do it, really. And again, to go back on the suspense, is you could have a lot of, if you show something once, then it only lasts a small, short moment in your page. If you show a single panel of all the grenades, then it lasts one moment. If you show many panels of different grenades, all in red, you understand that the moment lasts longer. Everyone's wondering if they're gonna explode. So if you do that all in red, not like full-blown red, you can find some variation, something that looks good, but you could definitely show the intensity of the moment.
Okay.
And I wanted to add something, and you could, if you have room, I'm not sure you will, you could fade in the red to more normal colors as they realize that the danger is past, they are not gonna blow up, like show the relief in the colors too.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Elsa? Ramène-le là si tu veux. Go ahead.
So we're drawing our illustrations with pencil and basically highlighting the important things with yellow. Like for example, we're gonna have a frame of the train, and we're gonna have a window that's highlighted because it has an important person in it.
Mhm.
So what are some other ways to show emotion without using color?
You could use texture with your pencils. If you draw a face and you add a lot of scribbly, you add texture. That's a great use for pencils. Let me think. Yeah, basically that's it. Texture.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I know we got short on time here with just another minute or so. We really appreciate it. We got our last final page, so we appreciate you taking time here.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we're like page 10 group, and we're focused on like having pictures about quotes that he said in his fighting spirit. So one of our questions were, when there is a difference with the person's height, pose, attributes, environment, could it affect how they show their emotions?
You mean would the height of the person show how they? I'm not sure I understand your question.
Like,
And then use the question about your fighting spirit.
which one?
Fighting spirit.
Okay. Okay. As a team, we needed to share the feeling of fighting spirit. We used a fist, but we're still wondering what other symbols could use to show that feeling. Like having like a brave feeling and like not giving up when something goes wrong. What symbol could be used with that?
A fist is a good. It's combative. You could go with love too. That's a good sign for when you're talking about not giving up. Yeah, I think you got it with the fist. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm sorry I couldn't be more help.
No, that's great. And I know this has been just absolutely phenomenal, I think, as we've been working through here. All your insights, we've been taking notes and scribbling all this information. So just wow. Thank you so much for taking an hour of your time to help us.
It's my pleasure.
And I think it's gonna, the bigger thing is for us to be proud of our work, but we also want Michelle to be proud of the work that we create.
Oh yeah, you can. It's incredible what you've been doing. Like, it's really, really great.
So we can't thank you enough for just taking time to lend your expertise, and it's going to allow us to take our work to that next level. So thank you so much. We say thank you as well.
No, thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Right. Yes, have a good day, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.